please welcome to the stage John Herstein, Chief Customer Officer at Box.
We do a little better than that? One more time. Excellent. All right, I'd like to also welcome up my panelists here. We've got Blakely Graham from TaskRay, CEO, Hannah Dawson from Futrli, CEO, and Jonathan Corey from Precursive, also CEO. How are y'all?
Good.
Very good.
Very well. Very well.
We
Thank
say
you
y'all.
for having y'all. That's
Y'all.
right. We do say y'all.
We're all where I'm from.
We say all y'all.
All y'all.
All y'all. We do.
You know what the difference between all y'all and all y'all is? Y'all means you, and all y'all means all of you.
Yeah.
You practiced that.
Don't worry about it.
All right, cool. Why don't we just move right past that awkward thing and get straight to our questions. And actually, let me start with introductions. And what I'd like to do is have each of you just give a little bit of context on you personally, and then the company that you run. So Blakely, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So I'm Blakely. I'm the CEO of TaskRay. We are a customer onboarding solution inside of the Salesforce ecosystem. So we're really focused on that key moment that happens after the sale is done and before the customer success cadence is picked up. I've been doing this for so long. My background is Salesforce. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for as long as 15 years now, so a long time. And I got my career start as an enterprise account manager. So I feel like I have felt the reactive side of customer success, and I'm very thankful that it's flipped to more of a proactive model.
Okay, Hannah?
Hi, Hannah Dawson. I feel like I'm an interloper because I'm not customer success software. Futrli is software for small business, so we're very much small business, not enterprise focused. So volume is our play. Two channels, small business direct and accountants, and what we do for them is help them to see the future with Futrli. So it's all about planning and making sure that they can help guide their businesses as the best foot forward. So a Xero QuickBooks add-on, and we play in that space. Serial entrepreneur, probably unemployable by now, and just trying to move the needle in the small business economy.
Jonathan?
So Jonathan Corey, co-founder and CEO of Precursive. We help companies improve their capacity planning and resource management. So typically our clients sit across a range of industries, be that high tech or telco or creative agencies, where they want to better align their sales activities with their delivery teams, mobilize people with the right skills for projects, and track the performance of those projects. So that's an application, again, that actually sits in Salesforce and sits between typically CRM and a finance system. So prior to this, I used to run part of CEB, now Gartner's advisory business in EMEA, and back then I think customer success was called account management. So it's great to see how it's flourished because the clue's in the title, so happy to participate.
Great. Well, thank you, and welcome to you all. One thing that we realized as we were doing some of our prep is that you each have a very different business model, and I think just to give everyone a little bit of context so that they can figure out which company they sort of most relate to in terms of the business model, can you talk a little bit about the size of your customer base and sort of the average transaction size, just to give people a sense of your business?
Sure. So we're a SaaS company. We have 1,300 customers, and we are dealing with a bit of a segmentation issue at the moment, but I would say our average deal is around 5,000.
Okay.
We're supporting over 40,000 businesses globally, 130 countries, offices in Sydney and Melbourne with 75 staff. So it's an interesting stretch that we're tackling always.
So customers are in the mid-market and the enterprise space, and typical contract value is anywhere between £35,000, could be up to £100,000. So.
And I think you probably have the widest range of average account values.
No, I'd say
you may have a range.
We are
Likely.
mom and pop, $100 to GE for.
Got it. Okay.
You're here. Thank you.
All right. All right. So I want to, actually, a little bit of an icebreaker. So at Box, You ready for this? It's going to
No.
be fine. It's going to be fine.
No.
At Box, we have 7 core values, and one of our core values is bring your blank self to work. And the concept is basically we want people to feel comfortable being whoever they are when they come to work and not try and be a different person. So I'd like you all to answer basically fill in the blank for yourself, just so people get to know you a little bit. I'll start, so you can be a little more comfortable. Mine is awkward. I bring my awkward self to work.
Right.
All right?
Right.
We can go out of order. Jonathan,
Well, can I
one word.
so I bring our dog to work. So we have a dog in our office who's called Molière, which is a French playwright, and he's deaf, but he speaks 3 languages. Work that out.
I
All right.
sadly, because of my Celtic connections, bring my swearing self to work,
All
so
right.
please excuse me if I slip up.
Your profane
I promised
self.
I wouldn't.
All right.
So I'm going to pull from one of our core values, which is energy. So our core values came from our 3 co-founders, and the one that most resonated or came from me. I'm just a glass half full. I believe in bringing energy to work. I believe in bringing positive energy to work. So
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. All right, now let's get into the questions. And I've got a whole bunch here. We probably won't have enough time for all of my questions because I want to leave a bit of time for your questions. And we've also, if we can squeeze it in, we've got a kind of a fun speed round that we're hoping to do. So let me start with, for each of you, and I'll start in the middle this time, Hannah, with you. Just give people a bit of your perspective as the CEO of your company, how you think about, obviously it's a customer success conference, how do you think about customer success functionally and sort of philosophically?
So when we started, we're 4.5 years old, I was the customer success function, so I would be responding to tickets, and it was completely integral. This was before launch. It was so integral that I understood exactly what the pain points were, where people were winning, where they weren't, because for us to have a successful business and to actually help to change behavior, which is what all of us are doing if we're creating software, it's about human behavior change, I think. You have to be able to talk to them, right? And if you're not talking to them, you're not then doing the fundamental thing which we're doing now. At scale, we've got 18 in our customer success department, from online support, implementation, account management, and understanding that what they do has to be completely pivotal to how product works, how engineering works, how sales work. You're at the heart of everything, because if you're not starting that feedback loop, nothing works. So I absolutely believe that this room is at the heart of everything that we should do.
Okay. All right. Want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So I think the customer success as a philosophy is really quite simple and maybe over simple for a SaaS company, but if your customers are not successful, then you do not have a healthy business. I mean, it's just a matter of fact. Functionally, I think we organize in a traditional way. If you can be traditional, I feel like this is kind of a new ecosystem, but we have customer support, customer onboarding specialists, and customer success managers. But they share a common goal, and that goal is to create what I think of as the holy grail of sales strategies, and that is to have your customers share their stories and their success points and become your sales evangelists. So that is the shared mission.
So just to clarify, what you think of as success in your case is your customers becoming advocates and references.
Our best sales team
Yep.
is our customers, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jonathan.
I mean, I think the clue is in the title, right? I think it's a brilliant name for a role and for a function. We've always viewed it as through the lens of growth, right? So really simply, if we're helping our customers to grow their business, they're going to buy more from us. I mean, we're a software company, but it doesn't matter whether you're a software company or a services business. You have customers in the consumer market or the B2B market. If you're making them successful and feeling good about themselves at the same time, arguably, then that's going to get you into a good place. I think echoing a point that Blakely made and Hannah was making as well is like, if you as a senior leader, it doesn't matter whether you're a CEO or a functional leader, if you've been in the trenches and really understanding customer problems for a while, I think it's very difficult sometimes over time to translate that into the arms of people who might have just joined your company, 3 months ago, right? And they're trying to learn how to make these customers successful. So from our perspective, I think functionally, we just try to keep it very simple, which is to think about what are the touch points through a year when we can add the most value and try to plug people in there. Doesn't matter whether it's CSM, support, advisory, we think of it quite holistically from that perspective.
So have you actually fully mapped out that customer journey for a year and you kind of know what those are? Or
Yeah, I mean, we think about, we try and map the cadence to the customer's year.
Okay.
Right? So their working schedule. So for us, you know, our customers typically have quarterly reviews, they have a budgeting cycle, they use insight from our tool in advance of those sessions, and the success functions role is to get that information into the hands of the customer and hopefully teach them something new.
Okay. So this morning we heard it from Dan and we heard it from Nick, this idea that customer success has to be a top-down, you know, initiative or focus for the company. And I'm assuming that all of you agree with that. You're all here on stage with us, so let's assume that's true. But to put you on the spot a little bit, what do you personally do to make that real? How do you sort of make sure that that's manifested inside of your company, that you really care about it, it's important to you? Want to start?
Sure. I mean, I spend time with my team.
Okay.
I think it's really simple, you know, whether it's brown bag lunches and actually being in the office with them, it's actually spending time and understanding, you know, pain points, success points, you know, innovation that they're bringing. We try to, you know, encourage an entrepreneurial spirit within our business so that no idea is a bad idea. You know, collision of heads makes amazing things. And so that's, you know, that's how success happens internally and externally, we hope.
Okay. What do you do?
So this summer, so we provide a customer onboarding solution. So we feel a tremendous amount of pressure. I'm sure Gainsight feels this pressure as well. Like you have to be the expert. Mm-hmm. So this summer, in fact, my colleague over there, Kirsten, she surveyed 1,000 of our customers through a quantitative survey. She then, with the product and the marketing team, divvied that up and phone interviewed 40 customers. And then I took the rest on the road. Brought our head of product, brought our head of sales and customer success, and visited as many customers as we could within a 6-week period. And our question was, how do you want your customer onboarding experience to be from us? How do you want your customer success cadence to be from us? And then we collated those, and we've invested in several spin-off projects to not only be able to deliver the optimal experience for our customers, because it's going to be different for every single person in this room, but then also to give back and share those best practices in forums like Pulse.
So you led that road trip and participated in all the workshops?
It was 6 weeks. We're getting to know the customer, and we want to hear from them. Yeah. Oh, yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, that's
a lot
cool.
of plane riding, though. That's not good for me. I'm old.
What do you do, Jonathan?
So I think for us, the biggest challenge was we've got a dev center in Poland, and we've got one in Spain. And so we've got, you know, people in the team, engineers, developers, who, you know, have never run a PMO. They've never run a large consulting organization. They've never run the delivery team in a software company. They just haven't. So trying to imbibe that kind of, you know, understanding the world of the customer is extremely challenging because they're developers, okay? So, you know, just trying to change their mindset and think like the customer is where I spend most of my time. And one of the areas which we looked at quite heavily was looking at consumer brands and how they do that, rather than just taking traditional software insight. We were looking at people like Netflix, people like Nike, and learnings from them and how we could apply that. So that was helpful because it resonated more with them than potentially some of the things that I was trying to teach them, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think there's a thing about, you know, we're all selling to businesses, but actually taking that business box away, so you're actually selling to people. Mm-hmm. And I think that as soon as that connection's made with an engineering team, with whatever team, that we're doing this for a purpose, that there's a why behind all of it, and the why for this person that we're doing it for is significant because of X, Y, Z, you get light bulb moments then.
Yeah, I feel like we've seen and heard that theme a couple times today, just this idea that you tend to think in B2B, well, it's companies, but at the end of the day, it's people who have their own objectives, their own motivations, and so forth. So you've seen the same, I assume.
It's all about the human connection.
Yeah.
That's really at the core of it.
So speaking of human connections, thank you for that. How do you avoid customer success being seen as this silo in the company that's responsible for the customer? JB talked about a little bit where, like, in the old world, it might be sales says it's my account, but you're actually responsible for the success of the customer. How do you avoid that? How do you ensure that customer success is really integrated into the rest of the company?
feel like I
Anyone?
keep going
Sure.
first.
Yeah, go for it.
No, so for us, it really stems from that work from this summer, and we code-named that Project Connection. And now what that has done is we've taken that work and have these cross-functional teams that are really driving very, very specific initiatives to bring the company together. So customer success I think of it's a practice that's newly formed, but there is little distinction, I think, from a customer success number and a product number, right? Those goals from those departments are the same. It's usage, it's adoption. So we're very, very focused on cross-functional teams, very specific initiatives to drive retention, drive customer success, and drive adoption until you know that it's a whole company commitment. It's just good sense, I think.
Can I just ask you as a quick follow-up? In those cross-functional teams, which teams are represented? You mentioned product, CS. Who else is in there?
Yes, so we have something called 3 priorities in 3 months. And so we put together, each department has 3 commitments basically. They have to have a hypothesis that they're testing, which has to map to a customer success initiative. And it has to have a measurable result. So for an example, we wanted to make our first experience with our product better. So we wanted to make our test drive experience the best test drive experience a customer could have. That involved product, that involved marketing, that involved customer success, and it involved pre-sales. So that entire team worked together to revamp our entire test drive in 90 days. And then we'll go on to our next project.
Cool.
That's kind of how I operate.
So sort of agile-like. Okay.
It's like a business school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was to say practically, the departments that you're talking about, sales, identifying the pain,
Yep.
usually hand over then to an implementation because they want to get them up and running as quickly as possible. And then account management traditionally, although now all of this should just be described as customer success, would then take them on and help them grow, succeed, etc. going forward. Practically inside our business, they all sit together. Like, these are really simple things. They're not siloed from a geographical perspective within the office. They talk, they're communicating all the time. From a compensation perspective, they're actually linked together, so it's not a case of sales dumping, mis-selling, for instance, and then saying, pick it up and run with this one. So we've really tried to enmesh them all together so they really do work as a cross-functional team from taking that customer from the first day all the way through.
Yep.
So we do a couple of things. One that we find works. So we thought a lot about, do we have a separate kind of onboarding, delivery versus customer success, and dividing that out. And what we learned kind of early was if you get great, smart people, and for us, we're relatively fortunate that our software takes somewhere between 8 weeks and 3 months to implement generally. And we felt, right, we bring people in, they'll run delivery, they'll run onboarding. It's not complicated. We don't want to go into this kind of whole Prince2 project management world. We do that, and that's the best way for them to learn all the problems, how to set up the product, all the key questions they're going to get asked, and then they transition into CS later on. And so it's a great way of kind of onboarding people into the company, getting value out of them quickly, and then transitioning in their career. Longer term, we'll have to think about how we split that. And then the other thing that we do to involve other business functions is we fly in, the dev team comes in for 2 sprints of the year. So we have sprints over 3-week periods, and they will come in twice during the year and spend a week of that time going out and meeting customers. And I don't even get involved. They just go and meet them. And sometimes it's a complete car crash, and they come back with loads of requirements that we then have to kill. But it's a brilliant experience for them for getting that exposure and just again, getting them just to learn, talk the language of the customers, get them to show them how they use the product in the office. And the customers love that. They're like, this is great. I've got your crazy guys from Poland coming in again. So.
I think it's good for both the engineers and the customers, right? For the engineers to really, talk to the people who are using the product and really understand the pain that they've got. That's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Twice a year you do that.
Yep.
That's really cool.
Yep.
So I think, Hannah, you talked about shared compensation or sort of goals.
Yeah.
And I'd love to get your perspective on who owns things like the retention number for the company, the churn number for the company. Is it a single person? Is it Is it sort of spread out across teams, or how do you think about ownership of those key metrics?
So our retention and, and as part of that, obviously churn and growth within accounts is factored in, but that's one of our company OKRs. It's like one of our company goals. Of course, our VP of success ultimately owns it, but he doesn't because everybody has responsibility for it. And that's, it's absolutely key, but it really, really ties into whole company objectives because we can't get to that figure if that one doesn't work. And so everybody's got visibility irrespective of team over all of the company targets and how they're progressing. It's relatively new. We're testing the water. I'm sure we'll have some failures along the way, but it seems to be working well.
Okay. Anyone else?
I think an interesting change that we made was actually having the leadership own the entire number. And so what I mean by that, our VP of sales now owns customer success. And when you think of SaaS and the momentum and growing, it is really a combination. I just heard this on stage a few minutes ago. It's a combination of new and churn and expansion. And when those are operated in different budgets, especially coming from a bootstrap company, you have really hard choices on where to invest. And it's cheaper to retain. And who better to feel that when someone is wrestling with a top-line budget and a retention budget? And so we find the ownership of one single collective number to really give us a lot of perspective on how we manage our forecasting.
So we're going to talk about investment as my next question, but I just want to clarify this. So in your world, customer success reports into the head of sales?
It does.
Okay. And so
Big job.
that person, who's that person, head of sales?
Mike?
Mike. How's Mike?
Mike is amazing.
Mike's-
Do not try to steal Mike.
Don't hire Mike. He's no good at what he
He's incredible.
does. But so he has to think about both the new business side as
Yeah.
well as retention of existing customers.
It's sort of like the CEO, CFO fight.
Right.
Like he has that fight internally all
Right,
the time.
with himself.
Yeah, all the time.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. And then Jonathan, what about you? Who owns
Well, I own it, right?
it? Okay.
So ultimately, and any CEO owns it. New business costs more to get, and you pay salespeople more, generally on base salaries, and their comp plans are bigger. That's kind of one side of the coin. And
Are you
yet-
trying to cheer everybody up here?
No.
What are you doing?
And yet there's various numbers around it. It costs you 6 times more to win new business than to renew something, right? And yet your CSM function will be paid arguably lower basics and probably less in terms of commission. So I think that needs to be looked at. I saw it's one of the questions that's popped up here, right? Realistically. So I think it is merging. We see our peers merging it, like the guys at TaskRay have done, which I think is really interesting. I think if you go on 20 different blogs and 20 different companies will tell you 100 different things. I think you need to, it depends on the size of the business. And for us, we've just merged it all together, right? So we're going to have actually probably a team structure for compensation. There will still be individual comp plans, but then a team overlay that balances the two.
I think the one thing to be careful there, because we've also merged it up, merging in terms of a common goal, but I truly believe in specialization in terms of the role. So sales and customer success, they are just they have different intrinsic motivations.
Yep.
So they need to be different roles, but merging the numbers just, I think, is an enlightenment act.
Yeah, this is one I actually feel personally pretty strongly about, that I think they are very, very, the DNA is just different.
It's
of those
so
people.
different.
So, yeah, but you can have it roll up into one person.
Right.
But the people underneath are different. So I'm going to talk about investment in a second, but I just want to do a quick process thing, which is just a reminder that we are going to use Slido, open it up for questions. There are some coming in already. Remember to use the hashtag Zinc. And if you have a question that you want to direct at any one specific panelist, go ahead and put their name in there so we'll know who it's for. Otherwise, we'll just let people answer, okay? So now let's talk about investment. And what I'd love to know is how you think about the relative investment in customer success as compared to other functions of the business. And maybe one simple way to think about it is if you had an incremental $100,000 to spend, suddenly you found yourself with $100,000 more than you had before that you could freely spend, how would you allocate it, and what trade-offs would you be making? CS against sales, CS against products? How would you think about it? You don't have to give exact figures, but just your thought process. Maybe, Jonathan, I'll start with you.
I would be looking at ways to automate So to be honest with you, so I think that you can throw a load of money into headcount, and if things are inefficient, then your profitability is not gonna be where you want it to be. So I would think about my investments particularly in success around how can I automate the mundane, like the really boring shit. The really boring stuff that you don't want CSMs or anyone in success arguably doing the firefighting stuff, right? You want it to be strategic. You want it to be about success. And I think now the opportunity through technology, through platforms, I mean, we leverage Salesforce for certain parts of this. There's something called Einstein that they have, which is quite clever. So we're going to be building that out more and more and more, leveraging some stuff from Google to automate a lot of responsiveness so that success actually becomes more like an advisory overlay. So that's where we would direct the money, to be honest with you.
Anna.
Right now it would be product because we're building a new platform, but post-launch, actually a lot of our forecasting post-launch is based upon you guys, and it's actually flipping the traditional sales and success model on its head, because we completely believe in product-led growth, and your product should do a lot of the heavy lifting for that initial onboarding, etc. Particularly if you're looking at SMB. There shouldn't need to be implementation managers for us. We're in a very different space from, it's not a change management piece, it's actually more of a B2C sell than a B2B sell. And so with our accounting partners, what I would invest it in certainly are, that the customer success side, but to make sure that they've got as few people to look after as possible, so they really can help with that land and expand growth.
Okay. How about you?
You're going to stump me on this one. So when we were hiring our first salesperson, I remember Googling, we're bootstrap startups. This is 8 years ago. In fact, John, one of our first salespeople, I remember Googling sales playbook. There are 1,000 playbooks out there. There's a model. I know exactly when to scale sales. I know how to scale sales. When we brought on our first customer success person, I Googled customer success playbook, and it was crickets, nothing out there. And so I think that's a real testament to what Gainsight and the other leaders and everyone in this room, and Pulse is a conference, and certainly what you're doing over at Box, it's a real testament to the need for a playbook and the need for those formulas. We're trying to figure it out right now. We have mid-market and enterprise. We're right in the process of exploring segmentation. To be honest, I think customer success is starting to move up the funnel. We're actually probably going to invest more in R&D this year in technology and our own product than we are necessarily to headcount.
Yep. And that's similar to what you said, and it sounds like it varies based on kind of where you are in terms of maturity of your product or launching a new product. You're going to shift those. The answer will vary.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes a ton of sense. Now, really quick question, because you mentioned the fight between the CFO and the CEO. I assume you all have some of those conversations with your CFOs. For the most part, are you arguing for more investment in customer success against your CFO or not?
I'm both, so I don't
Sorry?
argue. I'm both, so I
You're
don't
both.
argue with
Okay.
myself.
You don't argue with yourself. Okay, easy.
Could look crazy.
All right. Do it up here. Jonathan.
Yeah, we don't have a CFO yet. We've got a finance manager, and she just tells me to keep the receipts because this isn't the mafia, I think was the last thing she said. So, here's something that's interesting to me anyway. So we've been bootstrapped. We are raising, and so I've been surprised by the amount of questions that I'm getting from PE houses and VCs about success, right? So our expansion it's a raise to accelerate growth, right? And so a lot of the questions there are coming around success, and that's driven oftentimes by those people's experience in their careers of poor account management or poor onboarding and things of that ilk back in the day with clunky software tools. So I think for the future, that there won't be an argument at all. Definitely not. No, it's vital. I think the argument is going to be around what's the volume of business or volume of clients that one person can handle.
Yeah, that's key.
Yeah,
Absolutely key.
And that's all to do with the how transactional are they? How many touch points are there?
What tools have you provided them? How much automation? Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, the thing is, if you look at customer loyalty is driven Like more than 50% of it, there's lots of research on it, is driven by customer experience, right? But there's a piece of it before that, which is the product and service. So if that's crap, you've got to fix that first, because otherwise all they're doing is trying to fix problems. Yeah. So if the product's not as good as it can be, it's absolutely the best that it can be, then something's wrong, because these success managers will be solving problems, right, too often, yeah, and not doing what the role's really about, which is about growth.
Yep. Okay. All right, so we're running out of time, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a super quick speed round, and here's the rules. I'm going to say a word or a couple words. You're going to respond with no more than 3 words.
Oh, that's not possible.
Yeah, 3 words.
This was not in the plan.
We didn't rehearse.
3 words, and you can say whatever you want, all right? But we're going to be super quick. All right, and maybe we'll start here, and we'll like ping pong back and forth. So, you ready?
No.
You're not ready? All
All right, come on, bring it on.
right, let's just do it. Customer success.
It's going up the funnel.
Up the funnel.
Investment.
Investment.
Clues in the title.
Oh, good, okay. All right, churn.
It's a symptom of product or onboarding.
Frustration.
Expensive.
Gainsight.
This community.
Yeah, beautiful faces.
Periodic table.
What'd you say?
Periodic table.
Very good,
Good
okay.
one, good one.
Chief Customer Officer.
Finally has a rightful seat at the table.
VP of success. Same.
Will be on the board.
All right. Pulse Europe.
Hopefully the answer for everything.
I'm going to skip this one. It's too controversial.
What was that one?
Brexit. Let's just not.
Oh
let's
yeah,
not.
I'm an American.
No. Startup life.
My reason for being,
Tough but fun.
right?
Tough but fun. All right, that's 3 words. Perfect.
Yeah, fulfilling. Hardest thing you'll ever do. But
All right. And then last but probably not least, think carefully about this one. You ready? Nick Mehta's wardrobe.
Crickets.
his pocket squares out the back doing press-ups to get ready for him to come on here. So
3 of my words were there.
All right.
Yeah,
All right. You got one? You're good?
He's a handsome fella.
All right, there you go. Handsome fella. Okay, Nick Mehta with facial hair or Nick Mehta without facial hair?
Always with.
Always with. I'm with
All right.
you.
All right, so let's go to the audience questions.
Sorry.
So we've got a few here. We've got about 5.5 minutes left here. So maybe we'll go quickly because most of these don't seem to be directed at anyone in particular. Maybe 1 sentence or maybe 2 sentences. How would you define customer success for a client who'd never heard of the concept?
I don't think they need to understand the concept. I think they just need to, if they get given great customer success and support, they will have experienced it, therefore will understand.
So you wouldn't need to explain
I
it.
don't think you need to define it now.
We borrowed from Pulse years ago. For us, we define it as, hey, what do you want out of our product come 3 months' time? So what is your aha, wow moment? What is your desired outcome?
Got it. Yep.
careful how you frame it. So say something, don't say, you know, you bought something from us and we want to help you get the most out of it. Say, you've made a great investment, we're going to help you to, you know, make the most out of it. So, which are 2 slightly different things.
So the next question is around fully embedding customer success throughout the organization, including with engineers and so forth, which I think we actually covered at least one example. Does anyone have any just other quick, we don't have to go through all 3, but anyone have any other examples of how to do this well?
The only thing I was saying specific in the developers are actually anyone, you're counting anyone in your company, is that they all need to speak to the customer. So we actually have a number where every single person in the company must speak to customers. They all know marketing at least once a week, product at least once a week, developer more like once a month. So they must hear it firsthand. Talk about energy, that is a massive source of energy.
Yep. So I'll tell you one thing that we do at Box, we started about 6 months ago, was my CEO's idea, was we send a weekly email out that has a customer story. And what we've tried to do, we've tried really hard to do this, is to tie it to something that's happening in the world more broadly than us, right? So tie it to a public holiday that's happening, or tie it to an event that's happening in sports or media and entertainment or politics. And what we found with that is it just helps it click more quickly with people who just maybe wouldn't quite understand it otherwise, right? And so I'll get these emails back to be like, that's so cool, I had no idea such and such person used Box or for that use case. So tie it to people, tie it to events people can relate to, and it makes it real.
Yeah.
We've been doing that every week for 6 months. It's pretty awesome.
That's
so
fantastic.
I recommend it.
I've got another one on the developers piece, which is on every Scrum call, when we set a client up, there's part of our app has got a budget dashboard in it, and clients set it up in different ways. And so we get the customer success manager to share with the developers why they set it up that way and what the reasons behind it were, explain it in their language. And it happens every week. It's part of the Scrum. We have a Scrum on a Friday, which is basically a wrap-up of the week. And it happens every Friday. And it's breadcrumbs. Yeah, you're not going to change them overnight, so it's breadcrumbs every week, repetition.
All right. Okay, as CEOs, what is your view on the CSM career path? Do you believe it can lead to C-level CEO role? So are your jobs at risk here? And if so, how?
I don't see why not. I think that, you're at the forefront, the battleground potentially, or the growth ground of any business. And by definition, I think any customer success agent, officer, superstar is probably a really good problem solver. And that's what you need to be a really good leader, or at least one of the facets of it. So, I absolutely don't see why not.
Okay. Anyone else? Agree?
Like I said, it's a rightful seat at the table. There's nothing more synonymous with growth than customer success. Growth. Not gross,
Not
growth. Let's get that growth, customer success.
All right. I think we're just about out of time, but I want to ask you sort of one last question, which is as pragmatically as you can, is there any advice, tips, just from a CEO's perspective to folks in the room who are either CS leaders or CS practitioners? What should they think about? What should they do? Just something as practical as you can.
First impressions matter. So going back to that human connection, customer success is not at the end, right? It's first impressions with your product, with your service, no matter what. Make sure it's infused all the way at the beginning.
Okay.
I would say ensure that you are not working in a silo and demand that you're not if you are. Make sure that you are talking to every department within the organization and shout about what you need.
So I think there's a lot of commoditization around, and success is going to be a point of differentiation for you long term. And I think, don't overcomplicate it. It's cadence, right? It's rather than necessarily, we've got to have a process, it's just cadence. And it goes back to that, what's the choreography through a year or through a month or whatever that period is that gets customers the right amount of value? You don't need to overserve them. It's just, it could be 3 things a year that they really value, and they'll spend 50,000 on it, or they'll spend 100,000 on it, or they'll spend 200,000 on it. Companies have wasted loads of money up the wall on consultants enough in their careers that this type of thing actually can be way more simple than I think people appreciate sometimes, in my humble opinion.
Excellent. Well, you all nailed it. You nailed the content, you nailed the time. So I just want to say thank you all very much to our panelists. We appreciate your insights. And enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage Gainsight's General Manager of EMEA, Dan Steinman.
Oh no, he's back, he's back. For those of you who looked in your agenda and saw the words closing keynote and cringed, trust me, it's not a closing keynote, it's just closing remarks. But I do want to play one little quick game, kind of off of what John did. I want to do a quick customer sat survey. So I'm going to say 3 words, and I want you to raise your hand when the word I say describes your experience for today. You can vote more than once, but please vote at least once. Okay, ready? Go. Stupendous. Amazing. Incredible. Okay, Lauren, 100% on our NPS. Everybody loved it. But seriously, if there are things that weren't great, find a Gainsight person, let us know, especially if you think we can make it better by tomorrow, because we will try to do that. We take it seriously. So thanks, everybody, for coming. There really is no closing keynote. I hope you had a great day, seriously. We enjoyed having you. Thanks so much for being part of Pulse. You have about an hour. I think it's about 5:15 or 17:15. It's about an hour before the party starts. So if you want to find a place to take a nap like I do, just don't bother me if I'm sound asleep. And then we'll see you at the party later. And then we'll start at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So have a great evening. Thanks again for coming.